Good afternoon, everyone. Am I too loud or this is okay? Okay. I'm going to request everyone to stand for a minute. I think the post-lunch sessions always require just take a moment, wriggle your hands. Just take a moment. Let's wake up before we start the next session. Yeah? Awesome.
Tell us how to wriggle hands.
Just wiggle your hands. We are going to do a short exercise later and I'll give you opportunity to close your eyes and get that 2 winks of sleep, which everyone is dying for, but in 5 minutes. So yes, please take your seats. Thank you. Thank you for standing. Yes. You're more than welcome to stand too. I don't know how many of us travel internationally, work internationally. Many of us who now work in MNCs, we have standing desks. And rather in my office now, it's actually become a rule that all of us have a common workplace where we all stand around that workplace, and only when we want to sit are we allowed to enter a sitting room. Otherwise, the desks are standing desks, so you're more than welcome to stand. Anyway, good afternoon once again. Thank you for being here. I know post-lunch sessions are the toughest of the ones to attend. Today, actually, it's a very intensely overwhelming moment for me. And I might stagger a bit, and I apologize for that in advance. The reason it's going to be intensely overwhelming moment for me is I have been a product of this very institution, the institution that we are sitting in today. I owe what I am, who I am, and what I do to this institution and to the charismatic leader who we heard earlier. If there's someone in my life after my dad who can stand up and I'll bow irrespective of whatever might be in front of me, it would be Professor Dr. Vishwanath D. Karad. So recognizing him on this dais, usually you start your speech by recognizing the dais. For me, I'll go with one of Kabir's doha, पीछे लागा जाई था लोक बेद के साथ आगे थई सतगुरु मिल्या दीपक दिया हाथ. I was walking with the crowd. It's at some point where I met my guru, he showed me the light. And Indian mythology says once you've worshipped a guru, you've recognized everyone. So the dais, due respect to you all, Rotarians, due respect to you all, I've recognized my guru who's really made me a person who I could stand today and stand in front of you and talk about what we've done. So thank you. Okay, so having recognized the dais, moving on to my topic, Rotary Peace Centers and the role of peace centers in enabling global peace. Once again, an opportunity to stand, and now you will get your opportunity to have 2 wings standing. So please stand. Once again. Thank you. I'll request you to hold the hand with the person right beside you. Just hold your hand with the person right beside you. That's all. Now, for a couple of seconds, close your eyes. And then imagine what I'm going to say. Imagine you all are standing across the globe, expanding out of Pune into Maharashtra, into India, into Pakistan. Don't we love that country? Into Nepal, into Bhutan, moving on, Afghanistan, going to Middle East, Europe, United States. Imagine as you are passing through this, you're holding every hand that is besides you. Irrespective of the skin color, irrespective of the caste, irrespective of the creed, irrespective of the clothes, irrespective of the gender, you're just holding the hand and the chain goes on. And probably there are few who don't want to hold the hand. They skip and they stand outside. There are few who just shirk at you. There are few who just give you looks, but there are others who hold the hand. Just imagine then. Imagine how the globe looks now when you have this. Now, let go of the hands. Take a moment and sit down. What did I just describe? What did I just describe? Which is, Yes? Yes? I just described the philosophy of what brought in Rotary in 1905 and what led to starting of Rotary Peace Centers by none other than another Indian who was the then president of Rotary International and then as tradition became the foundation chair, Dr. Raja Sabu. The idea was, could you create a network of people who would sit in any office globally? It might be European Union, it might be German Chancellor's Office, it might be Government of India, it might be United Nations, it might be Pakistan government. Can you have a network of people across the strata, across the spectrum of society, who are connected to each other with a common thread? I think that is what led to starting of Rotary at some point of time. And the next stage of that was, can we have this network which is proactively trained in international diplomacy? Can we have this network which is proactively trained to override their personal emotions, their personal sentiments, to think for larger public good? And that's when the concept of Rotary Peace Centers took place. As we heard this morning, and since the morning what I've been hearing, I think 99% of my speech has already been covered. We have more than 1,000 Rotary Peace Fellows. There are 6 peace centers globally. Annually, about 50 peace fellows get selected. Not 2 fellows from one country, except for Australia and United States, because those being the major donors, they get an opportunity to nominate 2 peace fellows each. From India, for the major peace programs, we have about 15 peace fellows, while in general, we have about 60. So the program is also split into 2 parts. There's a mid-career refreshment program, which is for mid-career professionals, for which mostly our IFS, IPS officers go, which is in Bangkok for 3 months. And then a 2 years master's program, which is spread across 5 campuses, for which I think until now, again, at least 80% of people who've gone for that program have been from civil services cadre or army cadre, while 4 or 5 of us have been civilians who got selected. I give you that background because with this philosophy of creating this like-minded people, the philosophy, as we were listening to earlier, we were listening to Senior Diplomat, the philosophy is not only that these people get placed in government offices, these people get placed in army, these people get placed somewhere else. Those 60 to 70% have always been from civil services cadre. The 30-40% of us who come from, I don't know how to say, general public, if I may say so, emphasize the fact that peace is not something that happens only within governments. Peace is not something that is only within boundaries. Peace is something that affects us daily in our individual lives. And that's where I was thinking of how best I'm going to explain it. Initially, I did get an email from Rotary saying, do I have a presentation? I thought about it. I've always been inspired by Dr. Karad and his speaking skills. And unfortunately, I would like to think that has given me some skills of speaking extempore. And so irrespective of whatever I prepare, I end up leaving my file there. And I always come on dais to speak extempore. So thank you, Karad sir, for teaching me that skill as well. I owe a lot to him in my life. So coming back to the topic right now, I thought I'm going to share my life's example and what I do to give you an example of how peace can establish on the ground itself. I graduated as a Rotary Peace Scholar in 2010 from Duke UNC Rotary Peace Center, based out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Good afternoon, sir. Yes. I'm just going to take a second. Thank you. So I did my master's program out of Chapel Hill and Duke, a joint program where my master's was in social work and diploma in peace and conflict resolution. And my master's thesis was on social entrepreneurship, a tool for conflict mitigation at grassroots. How many of us sitting here think business can lead to peace? I was expecting your hand to go up. Yes. Okay. How many of us think business perpetuates conflict? No one? No one thinks business perpetuates conflict? Has anyone heard of blood diamonds? So business is a two-pronged sword. It on one side can lead to peace, on the other side it can perpetuate peace. And that's when I decided I'm going to focus on how businesses can enable peace. So my work, once I moved back to India, completely focused on creating social enterprises at grassroots to create enterprises for women, especially in conflicting communities. And I'm just going to give you a quick example just to tell you of how all of us can in our daily lives look at regular situations and say, okay, we are going to work on peace here. So my pilot was in Sangli, working with a group of Hindu and Muslim women. This was in a slum which used to be the first slum to get on a communal fight every time elections came. It was highly polarized between Hindu and Muslims. So we went there, we identified 5 Hindu women, we identified 5 Muslim women, created a self-help group, gave them vocational training to stitch bags out of old saris. A simple thing. Many of the Indian women, and now here I'll say my generation, because the next generation that I see is so prone to plastic bags, but we carry old sari bags in our pockets, and we are prone to carrying that. We just taught them how to stitch sari bags, tied their economic interests together. It was only if they made bags as a group, sold those bags as a group, could they earn the profits and split the profits between all 10 of them. Today, anyone is welcome to go and visit that community in Sangli. The same Hindu and Muslim families which had 2 separate streets in that slum have now actually houses facing each other. The kids play with each other, and the communities are intermingled. This is just a small example of cross-referencing the peace or the larger contextual discussion of peace that we are having to our everyday lives, because peace is a very overwhelming word. I'd like to further narrow it down to this premise that where we are sitting at. There was a very interesting observation I had a couple of minutes ago. The moment the topic of Pakistan came up, we had people who were ready to sleep suddenly sit in the chair, strong, wanting to hear what's happening about Pakistan. I want to know. The moment surgical strike came up, we had an applause. We were ready. We wanted to know when it's happening next. There's nothing wrong in that. But the reality in that is that there's an element of conflict in all of us. I'm sure after I step down off the stage, many are going to have angry pangs at me, but that's a fact. All of us love to show someone its own place. All of us love that there is someone who needs to learn a lesson. That element of conflict can be tackled at a very different level. And that's where institutions like World Peace Center of Myers, MIT, which speak of union of science and spirituality, stand different. That's where the Rotary Peace Scholars Program stands different, because when I went to Peace Scholarship Program, I had another Afghan student in my program. In my seniors, I had a Pakistani. As I said, no one was from one same country, so I connected to people, and these connections taught us to look beyond the history that I am taught in my textbook. How many of us know what is the history that is being taught in Pakistani textbooks? How many of us have known of a village called Tirtuk? This village was in Pakistan until 1971. Sir, I'm sorry, I'm speaking of, you can correct my facts, I might be wrong in my facts, but I visited this village and this is a story I've heard. 1971, one night they slept in Pakistan. I'll finish in 2 minutes. 1971, one night they slept in Pakistan. Next morning they woke up, it was India. On one side we were fighting the war of Bangladesh liberalization. On the other side, we did acquire some territory which we thought was legally ours. These people overnight became Indian citizens. Now that's where the soft peace started working. That's where this territory was open to public only in 2011. Until then it was completely out of public, it was completely army governed area. And when we went there, when we heard the stories, we heard 2 distinct set of stories. We saw 2 distinct set of textbooks, one which showcased the Pakistan side of history, one which showcased the Indian side of history. I'm not judging Pakistan, I'm not judging India, I'm not saying anything on that part. What I'm trying to say is that the peace at the core and conflict at the core is all in our heart. And the moment we can start dealing with it, the moment we can start dealing with those things, a lot of things will normalize. I'm not saying that's the solution to all. Please, don't take me at that front. I know the requirements of army, military, and all of that exist at the larger sphere. But where the programs like these can have the biggest impact and have had the biggest impact is these 1,000 changed hearts that have graduated as Rotary Peace Fellows, who are looking at the spectrum of problems that exist globally from a unified lens, holding the hand, creating that network globally, and saying, okay, let's try and change this. How can we change this? So I think that's where the biggest impact of Peace Fellowship has been. And that's where programs like MIT's World Peace Center have instigated students like me. I come from a lower middle class family. I never dreamt of traveling to US. I never knew what world peace was. I never knew what social entrepreneurship was. Until I stepped into this institution, until I went and interacted with Karad sir, until I understood certain things that I couldn't have ever been exposed to. So I think Rotary has done a big job globally, not only to create Rotary as a concept, but to take it to next level, create Rotary Peace Fellowship, and then to bring it to this level through peace symposiums, through such platforms, to create that awareness amongst anyone and everyone involved, that peace is not just a utopian concept. Peace is not something that the Indian army is going to deal with Pakistani army, or America is going to deal with ISIS. Peace is more one-to-one connect. I wish Karat sir had more time in the morning to speak, and he could have shared his experiences of his travel to Pakistan when he crossed the boundary and he met with every individual there and came back saying, Darshan, the conflict is here. If you go here, it's just a bond. It's the same people who connect to each other. And that's the bond that Rotary Peace Scholarship is building globally. So thank you, Rotary. As much as I owe to World Peace Center, MISE, MIT Pune, and Karat sir, I'm glad I got this opportunity to speak at my alma mater about another alma mater that gave me one of the best opportunities of my life. Thank you.
Thanks, Darshan.